own the rights to this music. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. Could not let another day go by without speaking on this situation. I was going to wait till Friday or even Sunday, but I've chosen not to. Darwin, what's up, man? I'm speechless. That's the first. First of all, I want to say that here we are. Once again, here we are. Unfortunately, we're here again. Same situation and the same outcome. People may say it was a different situation. No, it's the same situation because it's another black man, another African American man. Who's been killed and murdered by, law enforcement. And and let me just put this disclaimer out. I'm for one. I believe that police are needed. I respect the police. I respect the law enforcement and what they do in the communities. Of course, you can't. You can't label. Just because there's a couple bad apples, you can't label everyone the same. Okay, I have family members who are in law enforcement. I have friends who are in law enforcement. So, what I'm about to say, and even my opinion on the situation is not to discredit the law enforcement department, but also what I'm about to say is not to dummy down or bring down our black men and our communities and the things that are happening in our communities. There are so many different dynamics, right? So many different things are happening in our community right now. A lot of things that we are not addressing. A lot of things I don't know if we don't want to address, but I've said this before. My biggest concern for our community is that the lack of unity. People don't want to hear that. And a lot of times, and even when you do say it, then people say, what do you mean unity? The lack of unity. Well, there's not a lot of unity in our communities today. We can come together, and I'm going to say it, we can come together for some ignorant bull crap. I'm going to be nice today. I'm not going to cuss because I don't like to really cuss. We can come together for foolishness. We can come together for Jordans. We can come together for stuff that I feel like doesn't really do us any good as a community, as a whole, right? And then we want to rally behind situations like this, and then we not realize that we can keep dealing with the surface, but until we start addressing what's happening, those core issues, those core concerns and things that are happening in the community that have been happening for generations. Did I say generations? For generations, right? We will not see the light at the end of the tunnel. Well, let's just say this. We won't get to the light at the end of the tunnel. We see the light, but we won't get to it because this is one of the main key factors is that lack of unity. And a lack of unity to be able to even come to the table to disagree. This is what I've always said. I understand. We're not going to agree on everything. God knows I wouldn't want to agree with it. Even the comments and things I talk about, I know there's people who don't always agree with what I say. And that's fine. That's great. Sometimes you need to have another perspective. You need to see things from another perspective. You need to hear someone else's side, to a story or a situation. But I certainly believe that we have seen this play out in our community too many times. So think about this. Think about all the videos and situations that we have not seen, that we don't see, that happen on a regular basis, right? Furthermore, the outrage that we're having with law enforcement should equally be shared with our own people killing each other, right? This is one thing I've always said this, the lack of parenting. I'm not even going to say just fathers, just the lack of parenting. The lack of parenting, the lack of resources, the lack of what it is to cultivate, nurture, and invest in our community leads to a lot of this reason, leads to the reason why those outside of our community treat us the way they treat us. The reason why others from outside of our community look at us, stereotype, put stigmas on us, and things of that nature. With other communities, with other organizations, there is a united front. If nothing else, at least from the surface standpoint, when you see them from the surface, they're united together, they're standing together. We're here. It could be hell going on inside, but you best believe, they're united when it comes to someone coming against them. We as a community, we're suffering from that. Don't friend me, don't like me, I don't care. And I'm just going to say it. And all parties and when I say parties, I'm not talking about political parties. I'm saying all parties that are part of our community play a factor. The church, the foundation. Some of y'all may not believe that, but the church is the foundation of the Black community. Of course, yes, politics play a part in that as well. And then the community itself, the people, right? The mothers, the fathers, the uncles, aunts, the grandparents, the sons and daughters, the nieces and nephews, the grandbabies, the great-grandbabies, the great-nieces, the great-nephews. All of those pieces play a part in how we're going to move forward. I keep saying this, and I'm going to keep saying it, until we can come together as one, to be able to come to the table and discuss and actually put agenda, 5-point, 10-point agenda about what we need as a Black community to do for ourselves. What can we do to cultivate, nurture, and invest in ourselves? We will continue to see this play out. We will continue to see it play out. And let's just be honest, not only is George Floyd, his murder is not only sending shockwaves with a ripple effect, but let's just think about all of the other things that are being murdered in our community. Finances, health, our social, economics, health. I just said those. I'm saying the same thing. All of those things. The house of the place of worship, and I'm going to just say the place of worship, but just to say the church itself. Everything is suffering. At some point, we are suffering in every aspect of the community. Why? Because there's no unity. There's no unity. There's a lack of understanding, a lack of consideration, a lack of respect. I had a conversation the other day, sitting with family, we're talking, and trying to explain something to, a family member. That, growing up in life, you're going to have people who don't like you. You're going to have people that are going to look at you differently. You're going to have people who, because, hey, how you doing? Because of what you wear or how you talk or what you may drive, people will look and talk and will look at you, talk to you. They're going to have their views and opinions about you. But at the end of the day, you don't have to give back what you've been given. You don't have to give what you've been receiving, right, from someone, especially in a negative sense. And I think a lot of times people fail to realize that has a lasting effect on us as a community. And so look at it from the education standpoint. Our education system in our Black community is zero. Because I'm not looking at certain aspects of the community or certain parts of our community that have good schooling. We should be wanting to strive for having equal schooling and educational and things of that nature across the board in our community. One of the things that people see, this is where I have my issues with today's activists, young activists today. Some older, my age as well. We can't forget about where we've come from, right? to the point where the fights that our ancestors, those that were fighting for us, our forefathers, the Malcolms, the Martins, Medgar Evers, Rosa Parks, people of that nature, we can't forsake the works. We can't forsake the things that they were putting in place, cultivating, nurturing, investing back then, right? And for some reason, we have forsaken a lot of those things, and that's why we're still at this point 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, almost 100 years later. We're still back at what? Point one. Point A. We still have our men being killed like dogs. And now they're killing each other like dogs, right? We have our issues and have the things going on with our sisters, and I don't want to get too detailed or certain things. All I'm saying is that as a whole, our community is suffering. Now, like I've said before, not all is dead, not all is bad. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of positive, a lot of good things that are happening in our community, but still, the overall, you look at our community overall, we're still facing some issues and still facing and not addressing those things that we need to be addressing, those core issues, those core problems that are happening. I've always said this: how is it that we can have the same issues and concerns in every black community around this country? Every black community, no matter, now depending on how big the city, right? The demographic of that city, that region, yeah, will determine how much more of it occurs. But you can't tell me systematically that hasn't been put in place for us to fail, to not succeed. And this is one of the issues I've talked about, and I addressed this with I'm in a men's group. No matter your party affiliation, right? And I know a lot of people, I have a lot of friends, some black friends who are black friends. I'm sorry, listen to me, black friends. I have some brothers and sisters who are Republicans, right? And I've always said this: I know that Martin Luther King was a Republican. I know a lot of blacks, a lot of African Americans back in the day were associated with the Republican Party, right? Okay, but the Republican Party of yesterday is no more, right? Versus what it is today. And certainly, I'm a Democratic, so shoot me, unfriend me, I don't care. I certainly believe, I value, I don't agree with everything that the party stands for or that we may address. There's some views that I could be conservative about, and there's some views I'm liberal about. That's life. Hi, But at the end of the day, my concern is when it comes to my people, when it comes to our community, we're all going to have to work together. And I know there's a lot of people who says we need to have our own economic system and things of that nature. But you know what? Everything can't be about money. You could drop $1 billion in every black community, and what you're going to have, a bunch of rich, a bunch of rich Negroes with no education or knowledge of what to do with it. And it's not about going out buying Jordans. If we can't sit back and say, okay, look, this is what are we going to do to not only build our infrastructure, but what are we doing to build for tomorrow? Because see, that's one of the other issues that I'm concerned about today. We're fighting so much for today when we're not realizing the importance of what's going to happen tomorrow. I've said this before, there are a lot of checks that I'm depositing in life that my nieces and nephews, my great nieces and nephews, as you see, I took pictures the other day. Hello, can you come on? There's a lot of checks that I'm depositing that I will not make withdrawals from. They will be making the withdrawals from the checks that I'm depositing in life. So whether that be educational, health, spiritually, socially, political, whatever you want to call it, the fights. I know fight is such a harsh word, but let's just say, the battles that we're taking on right now. We have to be mindful that what we do today will not necessarily, we will see it today, our kids, the generation of today, of tomorrow, will see. Tomorrow, we'll see it. All right, let me see if I can bring you on, man. It won't let me bring you on, girl. That's crazy. It won't let me bring you on, Ren, for some reason. I don't know why. I don't know. I don't know why I won't let you. I don't know why I won't let you come on. Some people, maybe you have to turn something on for people to be able to bring you on, because like certain friends that are coming up, hey Sha and Sandra, they're bringing. I can see them where I can bring them on. You know, it has it under their name. It's all good, but I know. But my point is this: what I want to get back to is that we have to understand the importance of what it is to really deal from within, right? And you know, my heart goes out to George Floyd's family, but my heart goes out to all the brothers and sisters that are killing themselves, that are dying every day, right? Not just a physical death, but spiritually, health-wise. You know, there's a lot of death that's happening, that's going on in our communities, and unfortunately, until we really sit down and talk about it, to really address it and really get on the same page about our views, not just our views, but get on the same page about how we want to address this as a community as a whole, not just for election season. And I'm gonna be honest with you, you know, I do not support what Puff Daddy said about holding my vote hostage because of what's not being done. One thing is we have to get involved to be a part, right? What did I say the other day? You know, if you know, if you know, for us to do it, you know, we can't expect certain things if we're not a part of the process, right? And one of our biggest parts that we play in the process is voting. A lot of people have their issues and views with that. Well, I'm sorry. At the end of the day, there are a lot of people who gave their all for me to be able to even sit here right now in the comforts of my own home and being able to talk to you across these airwaves like we are right now. And I'm sure not going to, put their name and their efforts to shame because of some issues or some personal agendas and motives that I have today. Because obviously things ain't done. Things haven't gotten better. Things ain't getting better if we're still dealing with this. If we're still dealing with seeing modern day lynchings in front of our faces. And I'm gonna tell you, it comes back to unity. It comes back to unity. We have to be together. We have to be on one page. We have to be on one accord. Look, we don't have to be on the same place at the paper, right? But we have to be on the same page. We have to be sitting down and talking about what my biggest issue and concern, even here in Anne Arundel County. And I have no problems with saying that. Because I have nothing to lose. I have nothing to gain or nothing to lose by saying what I'm about to say. We have to leave the egos at the door. You know, I want to use this analogy. What's the purpose of a cookout, right? What happens at a cookout? I know I always use food. I like to eat, so what? But a cookout is one of the main parts of a cookout is what? The food, right? The food aspect of it, right? So what happens is that when we plan a cookout, even with my family, we sit down and get a list of things that we need, right? Okay? So we may have, it could be 15 to 20 different things on the list that we may need or that we want, right? That people may say, hey, what can I bring? What can I do? Blah, 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 right? And what happens is we reach out to different folks. Folks will reach back out to us and say, hey, put me down for sodas. Put me down for chicken, right? Put me down for bread. Put me down for snacks, blah, 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 and so on and so on. The same thing when it comes to the issues and concerns that are happening in our community. And no one's tripping. Of course, when people say, well, I make the best seafood salad. My seafood pasta salad is the bomb. Hey, you know what? I'm glad you are confident about your seafood salad. But at the end of the day, I'm not worrying about what is the best. If you said you're going to bring it. Okay. So my thing is, why can't we take that same principle, right, or those same principles and apply it to what's happening in our community today? Okay, look. All right, look, we have the brothers and sisters up North County side have these resources that the South County can benefit from. Vice versa, South County has some resources that the North County side can benefit from. Okay, so what community are we going to use to be the blueprint that we're going to use as a blueprint to be able to use this as a blueprint and a catalyst for all of the other communities that are in Anne Arundel County, in the black communities. I'm just talking about blacks, so I'm not trying to be, divided and just getting the point. So listen to what I'm saying. How can we take those same principles and say, okay, let's take, and I'm just using this because we're looking at Annapolis, how can we take a community like Eastport and Annapolis, right, versus a community which we would consider South, County area, close to the southern part of the county, versus like a Freetown or Mead Village area, which is, I consider like the north, but that's more like western side of the county. But I'm just saying, how can we sit down and say, okay, we're going to use these two communities, right, as blueprints and catalysts, right? And we're going to take these resources, we're going to cultivate, nurture, invest in these communities here. And we're going to give ourselves a 6 months to a year to value. I'm not saying that there's nothing like that's happening. So anybody who's looking, who wants to throw gas on me and lit the flame, I know there are programs out there. I know there are things that are happening. But what I'm saying is, how can we put this information out so people can get involved? Because even with me being involved and being connected to the community, there's still a lot of things I don't know, right? I still don't know a lot of programs that are happening, and everything is not about getting a free handout. Sometimes it's about just information getting out so we know how to effectively do what we need to do in the community. But that comes back to unity. When we work together, we can build together. When we build together, we can accomplish together. And when we accomplish together, what happens? Then our outcomes, we will see the outcomes together. But when we have these little islands here, this little island over there, this island over there, and then everybody's just doing their own thing with themselves and to themselves, and then we're wondering why 2 weeks ago we still had 2 murders in the city of Annapolis. Well, at least in the county. So I'm just grazing. Just grazing. I'm not even trying to get into the core of things because there's so much more I could say. But at the end of the day, I wanted it to be known that George Floyd, your name will not be, you did not die in vain. And my prayer is, as we look and move forward on and with this situation in the weeks to come, months, unfortunately, we're right back here again. And I certainly believe that it's going to have to take a collective effort of everyone involved, everyone in the community, to sit down and really start taking the initiative as a whole, and take these titles and these egos at the doors, man. I'm glad that some of you have education, you got degrees in here, that's fine. Then let's utilize those. Let's utilize those resources so we can do the necessary things to educate our people, cultivate, nurture, and invest in our people so they understand the importance of what it is, that what everybody's bringing to the table, and how we can utilize that for our benefit, right? This is what I've been taught growing up. I was taught this, when you know better, you do better, right? Okay. Well, I've learned that some people's knowing better may not been the most positive way of knowing how to do things, or be, what it was to do certain things. So I've learned is that we have to be honest with ourselves as a community and address a lot of the issues. There's no way that a black community is going to survive off of fried chicken and liquor. You can have all the faith in the church in the world, but I'm sorry. liquor and chicken is not going to have a community. A community, a black community, is not going to survive off of that. And weed, but now you can put weed in it because weed has made a strong comeback now. Was never left, but I'm just saying, put those three. I'm sorry. Sorry to my brothers and sisters who promote and push all that. It's not healthy. Over time, it's not healthy. Too much of anything, it's not healthy, right? So we have to address it. We have to get back to the basics, and we definitely gonna have to do it together. Can't do it separate. We gotta do it together. That's my piece. That's my spill and everything. Let's continue to do what we can to support the community, the city of Minneapolis. Let's do what we have to do to make sure that we get the awareness and the things that we need to do as a community to really stop this violence, man. I mean, Chicago, I wanted to say this briefly. I've been doing some beginning stages of researching where a lot of the Chicago, a lot of this killing and this fighting and stuff that's been going on in Chicago. I've been doing some research, starting some research on it. Probably won't be for another few months before I even say or have a show on it, because I just want to get some clarity on things and have to understand the players and everybody that's involved. But it's really sad what's going on. And I'll say this much, when people say Chicago and what's happening in Chicago, even what's happening in Baltimore and DC, any urban city in America, in this country, in this world, not just here, it's all around the world. You'd be surprised of the radius of which is happening in, right? Because, I was under the assumption too that, when you say Chicago, that means like, Chicago is just, Dodge City. No, that's not the case. Well, when you look back on what's happening, a lot of these killings and murders that are happening, they're in a certain radius of the city. And in some areas where they're blocks, like a block apart from each other. Like my block don't fool with your block. So we're talking about literally in walking distance. Like I could walk from my block to a block that I'm beefing, and there's maybe a block in between. So there's a block that's keeping us apart, right? So you would consider that neutral ground, right? Okay. But that's literally what's happening, right? Just to give you some early, just some of my research I've done, that I've been doing, and it's unfortunate that we're talking about blocks. A radius, a certain radius of a city, right? 4 or 5 block radius, right? When you're talking about the south side, the north side, the east side, the west side, when you're talking about that, we're talking about literally blocks. And these guys are killing each other, man. Girls too. So, like I said, say his name. Say his name, George Floyd, man. Say his name. I'll definitely have a couple more videos about this, but I just wanted to share this with you guys, and I'll talk to you soon. Love y'all. Don't forget Lyrics of the Heart Friday morning, and Sunday Encouragement on Sunday. Peace.